Hey everyone, how you doing today? Welcome to my first ever Christmas romance reading vlog. I apologise if I sound a bit crappy. I am recovering from this ridiculous cold and I've been off work for a few days. I am starting to feel a little bit better, which means I want to get reading again, and I've decided that it is time to start this vlog. I have three books, no, two books that I plan to read for this vlog, and that is Meet Me in London by Georgia Tofolo. She wants to open her own beauty store, clothes designer store, boutique, that's the word. But she can't because of this new department store that's being built that's putting a stop to her plans. He is the son of the owner of the department store, and he convinces her to pretend to be his fiance for Christmas with his parents. And in return, he will give her a boutique spot in the department store. But then things start to get a bit more real between them. But then some stuff comes out about her past that could put a spanner in the works. So I have this one, and then I also have 12 Days of Christmas that I can't remember the author name because I'm terrible, but essentially it's a grumpy sunshine Christmas story where she is determined to make him like Christmas, and she has 12 days to do it in. So I'm starting off with these two. I might go onto Kindle and see if there's any others to pick up, but I'll see how I get going first. But like I said, I have never read any kind of Christmas romance before. It's not really my genre, it's not really my thing, but I have been reading more romance books in the last few months. All of last year I didn't really read romance, I just didn't feel it. Start of this year, when my relationship ended, I didn't want to read romance because, why would I want to read about all these happy couples when I'm going through the worst breakup of my life? And then now I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of more open to the idea of having romance again, and I kind of miss the sappy, soppy feelings. So yeah, I've been getting back into my romance, and I've actually read more romance than I have anything else in the past couple of months. So yeah, I thought if I'm ever going to do it, now is the time. I did start this yesterday, I only got 4 pages in, and I'm like, yeah, that seems interesting so far, but we shall see how it goes. And then the other book is at my dad's. I'm going up there Christmas Eve, and I don't yet know when I'm back after Christmas, but the plan is Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and if I'm not travelling back Boxing Day, then Boxing Day as well. My plan is to sit and read that book over those 3 days. But anyway, I'm going to get on with some reading and probably have another nap because I can hear as I'm talking my nose is starting to get more blocked again. So I'm going to have another nap, play a bit more Genshin, and do some more reading. So yeah, hope you're all good, and I'll speak to you in a bit with an update. 7 pages into Meet Me in London, and I've cringed already. Oliver Russell had known a lot of beautiful women in his time, but she was next level. Quite simply, she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Really? Like, ugh. She's walked in, he's like, wow, she's gorgeous. She's the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. And just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get on with this very much. I'm already kind of like, oh God, why did I pick this up? But I will persevere. I will keep going. But just, if that's the level of writing in this book, oh God. Less than a minute later. Don't get me wrong, when a romance is written well, I love it, but there are some times when I wonder what an author, like whether it's romance or whatever, I do sometimes wonder what authors are thinking, because the description of this woman is like, she bent to stack more bottles into a small fridge behind the bar, giving Ollie a front row view of her graceful, slender neck, the gentle slope of her shoulders, the pearls of her spine, trailing into that curve-enhancing vintage dress. What's a pearl of her spine? What even is that? Because, call me crazy, but Is that supposed to be like the vertebrae in the spine or something? It's like you shouldn't really see those sticking out, should you? Is that a thing? I don't know. But I do find that sometimes romance writing, just the descriptions that are used for people are weird. This is weird. I am officially 50% through this book. Let's see if I can prop this up somewhere. I am 50% through Meet Me in London. Honestly, it's nothing special right now. It's kind of cute in parts. It's pitched as a Christmas romance, and yet we are 50% through. And Christmas has been mentioned about 3 times. And even the main storyline, because I thought that like the opening of the department store was going to be at Christmas, hence why it was going to be a Christmas romance, but no, it's not. Like the whole thing's going to be over by the first week of December, so it's like, well, how's this a Christmas book? So that's been kind of annoying and confusing me. A couple of bits that are happening in this, like we learn quite early on that when she was younger, Victoria was in a car accident, and it's not been said exactly, but she keeps like motioning to her stomach, and there's been like issues with her last relationship had to do with like she couldn't have kids, and he said that that was absolutely fine, but then he left her for another woman because apparently it wasn't actually fine, and that's left her really, really scarred. And I will admit, like, they've sort of skirted around it a little bit, but they haven't really talked about it yet. And I just feel like, I don't know, overall this just seems very meh, and the writing is not great in this. I didn't realise until earlier today that it's in Mills and Boon, and I'm like, oh, that explains it, because not all, but my experience of Mills and Boon, certainly growing up, because my gran used to read them a lot, was being a brilliant writer wasn't really a requirement as long as you could just churn out 300 pages of romantic drivel. And honestly, that's what this kind of is right now. It's a little bit romantic drivel, and it's not a Christmas book. I would not market this as Christmas at all. The only sort of link to Christmas it has right now is that it's set end of November, beginning of December, and they've mentioned Christmas once or twice. Like, no. Considering this is my first supposedly Christmas romance, I'm very underwhelmed, and it's making me really wish I was reading something else. And it's also making me wonder, am I going to get catfished by any other books claiming to be Christmas books that are actually not Christmas books, but they've decided because it's set in December, that means it must be Christmas. So yeah, I'm going to see how I go. I'm not giving up on it because it's not like I'm not enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the fashion design aspects in this. But yeah, I also don't like that instant, oh, she's the most gorgeous girl he'd ever seen, and she's like, oh, he's well fit, isn't he? Like kind of vibe, and it's just, just smash and get it over with, guys. Not me thinking I'd already finished talking about this book, and it turns out I didn't actually do the wrap up for it. So I finished Meet Me in London the same day. This is like 2 days later, but I did actually finish it the same day that the halfway through video came out, like the previous clip was. It got 2.5 because there were a few elements in it that I enjoyed, but I just felt like the plot was very meh, it just didn't really go anywhere. And even though there were things like illness mentioned, there was like potential for conflict, not necessarily third act breakup, which you all know I hate, but it did have some potential to actually do a little bit more and go a bit more in depth with things. But it just felt like everything resolved really, really quickly, and it just felt like Victoria had to just make a tiny little suggestion and everyone went, oh yeah, that's fine, and did it. And it's like, in reality, people don't do that. And I don't know, it just felt very lackluster. And in terms of all the romance that I've read since I started reading romance about 2 years ago, I think this is probably the most forgettable one. I did read it very quickly, so I will give it was quick and easy read, so I did kind of just want to read it and find out what was happening. But yeah, overall, not really a big fan. This is book 1 in a series. I don't think I will continue. So even though I've marked it as starting a new series on Corpile, I'm not going to be continuing it. I'm really sad actually, because my first foray into Christmas romance, and it turned out to be a book that mentioned Christmas for all of about 3 pages, had actually nothing really to do with Christmas. It could have been set any time of year and had the exact same plot and effects. And yeah, 2.5 out of 5. Fingers crossed the next one is going to be a bit better. I have put a couple of requests in on NetGalley because I realised that on my library, every single book that I saw that I was remotely interested in are on loan until at least the 20th of December. I've put a couple on reserve, so if people return them early, I will get them early. But I'm not expecting to get them. But it's the 12th, 13th now, and I don't want to be waiting a week before I start my next romance, especially as I want to do this as a vlog to release on Christmas Eve. And yeah, I've got 2 more books at my dad's. So I was like, well, I don't really want this to be a vlog about one book. So I'm going to, I went onto Netflix. No, I didn't. I went onto NetGalley last night and I've requested 3 or 4 books. So maybe one of those will come through in this week so I can actually continue the vlog. Ideally, I'd like to do at least 3 books, so 1 out of 3 is done, and it was terrible. I'm really worried about this. Have I made a mistake? We shall see. Hello, I have successful news. I'm also waiting for my nails to dry. You can't see it on camera, but they're actually like a deep evergreen. And I've been in a massive green mood lately. Like, I just want to wear green all the time. Like, I'm pretty much wearing green and nails are green. I think it's the red hair, like the green goes really well with the red. But as I was waiting for them to dry so I could do the second coat, I thought I would quickly do this bit. And we have an update. I was kind of getting a bit concerned because I finished my first Christmas romance, as you know, and I gave it 2.5 stars, and I was then like, cool. So I went on the library and I had a look, and all through my library, every single book that I had even a remote interest in was fully booked until like the 20th of December. And I was like, crap. So I went onto NetGalley and I requested about 4 books, hoping, because normally with NetGalley requests you get a response quite quickly with approvals. So I requested 4 books and I have yet to get anything back off those, and I was starting to get a little bit stressed out. But then I got into town a little bit early for work, and the charity bookshop that is opposite my shop was open for the first time in like 4 months or something stupid. So I went in and they had 3 books for £1. And I thought I had £1 in my account. I went to pay for them and I realised I didn't. And I sort of said, look, I'm going to have to put these back so I can only afford 1 now. And yeah, the lady was just like, just take them. It's 50p. Happy Christmas. So I ended up coming home with 3 books. And 2 of those are Christmas romances. This is the one that I'm the most excited for. And it is The Winter Garden by Heidi Swain. It's basically this woman ends up working as a living gardener on a country estate. She gets hired to create a country, like a winter garden, and basically everyone's welcoming her and everyone's like really happy and warm and inviting, except for the local artist Finn. And it's just like, no matter how hard the pair try, they just can't get along, and working together to bring the winter garden to life quickly becomes a struggle for them both. So that one I think I'm going to really enjoy because of that dynamic. And then the one that I started while I was on the bus, and this one also is very intriguing for me, is Trisha Ashley, A Winter's Tale. And this one follows Sophie, who inherits a crumbling mansion which is her family home. And the prologue is her as a child, and we get some hints and things about like her grandfather and that there might be ghosts or invisible friends and stuff like that, and that it might be haunted. And then there's a lot of discontent in the family, like the grandfather nearly calls her a bastard in front of her, and that kind of argument leads to her and her mum leaving, and she never returns until she inherits it. And it's got a lot of local history, and the locals are very interested to find out what's going to happen to her. And then very quickly, a guy takes interest in her but it's a case of, is he actually interested in her or her money? Meanwhile, there is the gardener. It's always the gardeners in these books, gardeners and artists, but the estate gardener, who is a solemn, what does it say? The strong and silent type. But does his passion bloom for anything beyond the horticultural? So yeah, these two are giving me more hopes than the first book did, so fingers crossed I'm going to enjoy them. But I started A Winter Tale on the bus. I read the prologue. I'm going to sit and read the first chapter now and then do the second coat for my nails. And yeah, I will give you an update when I'm about quarter of the way through. Okay, page 15 of the A Winter's Tale. And I have just spotted a thing that is a bit problematic. I think it's just the author not quite saying the right word, but it's still, if you're going to talk about these terms, you should know what they mean. She falls out, like the character falls over, and it says, except that angels are presumably asexual, while this one was undoubtedly male. Asexuality doesn't have anything to do with gender. And it's just like, I think she meant non-binary or something like that, like non-gendered, or, you know, what's the other word that they use? Androgynous. I think she meant that, because asexual is definitely not the right word. Like, I'm not like offended or anything. It's just one of those where it's like, if you're going to use those kind of terms, you should know what they mean and make sure you get the right one. And I'm surprised that it wasn't picked up in the proofreading or the editing. Like, someone surely should have gone, oh, that doesn't seem quite the right word. But I'm 50-50 on the writing so far, because it's written in first person, as most romances are, and she uses like really weird language, and she's like really poetic and like flowery and stuff, but I think that's because they're trying to give her an air of like old worldy timey about her. I don't know. But yeah, that bit kind of made me go a little bit, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, we shall see. Hey Lou, I'm watching Chloe's reading sprints from Chloe Reads Books, who I will link below. And I left the current Christmas romance upstairs, so I'm just going to start my third and final one that I have currently in the house. I am reading Heidi Swain, The Winter Garden. This is the one that I'm most optimistic for. This one has, like, she's been hired to make a Christmas garden for an estately house, and everyone's like, hello, welcome, and then there's this one guy that's just like, no. And so I think it's going to be like Grumpy Sunshine, which we all know I love. So yeah, I'm hoping this one's going to be very feel good. So yeah, I'm going to start on this one while I'm watching Call the Midwife and Try Not to Cry. And hopefully this one is going to be better than the first two that I've been reading, because one didn't enjoy, the second one I'm only 2 chapters in, but I have a horrible feeling it's going to be a DNF, so fingers crossed this is going to be the one. I am a number of pages in. 82 pages in to the Winter Garden, and I'm actually so far very much enjoying this one. The writing isn't cheesy and corny. We haven't even met like the love interest on the back yet. We've just, as she's walking around the site and getting to know the gardens after starting her new job, they've heard him working in the workshop, because he's like an artist that does sculptures. And she's heard him in the workshop, and the woman that she's with is like, yeah, let's just leave him to it. He doesn't like being disturbed. So we haven't yet met him, but we've like been aware of his presence now. And I quite like this one. It isn't just like thrown in and we're getting a really rough background on everything. The writing's quite good. It starts off that the owner of the house that she was living at recently died. The owner's nephew, I think he is an absolute dickwad, and he treats Freya really badly, and he basically kicks her out of the cottage that she's been living in for 3 years and says, well, you've got the choice, you either live in the main house or you go. So she reluctantly moved into the main house and decided to stay on there. She gets offered a job at a new place that comes with accommodation for her and her old owner's dog, who she's kind of adopted. And the guy that she hates and has been treating her like dirt, he kind of makes her snap, because he turns around one day and says, because the dog is technically his, because it was his aunt's dog, he's like, well, the dog needs to go. And she just goes, right, I'm out, I'm gone. And she just leaves. And yeah, I've just been really enjoying that it's not just a 2-page kind of summary intro and then we're into the main bit. It's actually built up really well. We're getting to know the new owners, we're getting to know the new characters, we're getting a proper introduction to the main character, and I really like this. I think that's been my problem with the last 2 books, is it's kind of felt very, very rushed to try and get to the romance, whereas this is just a nice build-up. Yeah, I'm just enjoying this one so far. So far, so good. Fingers crossed it continues. Hey everyone! As you can tell, this is not my usual background. I'm at my dad's, so books and pretty wallpaper and things. But I do have some reading updates. It is the 29th of December now, no, 28th of December. But while I've been here for Christmas, I have done a little bit of reading, not as much as I was hoping, but I was quite poorly for the first 3 days. On Christmas Eve, I came down at work with a humongous migraine. I was really poorly. Christmas Eve, I was quite sick. On Christmas Day, like, I ended up going for a 2.5 hour sleep because I just felt so unwell. Boxing Day, I was still a little bit rough, but I did get started on another book. And then yesterday and today, I finally kind of been able to read properly. And the first book I'm going to talk about quickly is The 12 Days of Christmas by Debbie McComber. This is one of the ones that I was saying to you guys about that I bought a few months ago and I left at my dad's for me to read over Christmas, and my plan was to read this Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Unfortunately, because of the migraine, it ended up being the Boxing Day 27th that I read this. And I read like the first... Actually, I think Christmas Day I read the first like 20 pages of this. And then on Boxing Day, my parents went to bed at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and I ended up staying down and finished it. It's only 260 pages, and the words are quite big, and it doesn't fill the page, so it wasn't too bad. I read it in about 3.5 hours. I didn't like it at first. I thought the writing was quite sort of choppy and a little bit, like, even by the end of the book, I'm still not entirely certain what the characters look like. And I'm noticing this is a thing with these kind of romances. We don't really get a good description of what the characters look like. I know that he's tall, fit, and dark hair and eyes, and that's about it. But I can't even tell you what the main character's hair colour is in this. But as it went on, I actually started to really, really enjoy it. I felt like when the romance kicked in, it went from 0 to absolute, like, it was like they'd been together for years in a space of like a day. And it is set over 12 days, as you can imagine, by the 12th day to Christmas. And you've basically got, this one's not Freya, is it? No. Julia, who hates her neighbour. She thinks he's like a miserable old git, even though he's not old, but she thinks he's a miserable git. And her friend says to her, maybe you should do an experiment because she needs to set up a blog for this job that she wants to apply for. And basically, whoever out of her and the other people going for this job, whoever gets the most followers and whatever on the blog is the one that's going to be in the running for getting this social marketing media job. And originally she was doing like Christmas wreaths, and her friend was like, well, that's not really going to be getting you anything, so try this. So yeah, she started the blog off as like an experiment to try and get her Grinch-like neighbour to be friendly and nice to her. And very, very quickly, the two realise there's more to each other. There were some quite unrealistic things, like they both got the flu, yet within 24 hours they were both out of bed, back at work, fine. And I'm like, people who get the flu are out for about a week at least, so I kind of felt that was a bit unrealistic. But yeah, there were bits that I really didn't like, and there were bits that I really did like. And yeah, I ended up quite enjoying this. I haven't run it through Corpile just yet. I actually ended up really enjoying the blog posts and the blog story. The only thing that I really hated is it was kind of like from about halfway through the book, I was like, for God's sake, girl, just tell the man what you're doing. And I felt like there were too many secret keeping, and when he found out, inevitably he went ballistic. But I felt like that could have been dealt with far earlier, and she should have just been honest with him from the start, and I hated that she wasn't. And I reckon this is going to be at least a 3.5, if not a 4-star. So it wasn't bad. I think this is one that I might want to reread again. Like, I don't know. I will take it home, put it on the shelf, see how I feel next Christmas. And then one that I think is going to be the winner for this Christmas, which is The Winter Garden. I think I did a bit of an intro to this one when she meets the grumpy artist Finn. And yeah, at the moment they've kind of been at a bit of an impasse with each other. Every time they sort of start to connect, something happens and they kind of just dislike each other again. But things are starting to connect now. Like, I'm about halfway through, and they've had like their first kind of romantic encounter that involved a kiss, and it was really lovely. And I'm actually just really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying the whole cast in this one. I think it was really well built up. We've gotten to know the characters a bit before it hasn't just been, oh, they've met and 3 pages later they're having sex, or they're like, within a week they're madly in love and marrying each other and stuff like that, which I've noticed in the past 2 books seems to have happened. The relationships happen super, super quick. Like, we're halfway through the book now and she's been there for about a month, so they've actually known each other for a few weeks by this point. And it just feels a lot more natural and it feels more organic. And I think that's where my problem has been with the other stories. It's just felt too forced and too quick that they've gotten together. So yeah, this one I'm really enjoying. I don't think it's going to be a 5 stars, probably a 4, maybe a 4.5, but we shall see. And yeah, my plan is to get The Winter Garden. I go home tomorrow, which is the 29th, so I want to get that finished tomorrow on the train. So yeah, having a lot more luck with books 2 and 3 of this experiment. And yeah, book 1 we'll just forget I even read. And yeah, anyway, it is almost midnight and my parents went to bed like 2 hours ago, so hopefully they can't hear me talking and I'm not disturbing them. We shall see. I'll probably get told in the morning, or they'll be like, oh, who were you talking to? And I'll be like, YouTube. I'm gonna head off. I need to finish, and we've got some bits to pack. I got a gorgeous new what's it called? Blanket for my birthday from my dad, because it is my birthday in 2 weeks. And yeah, we went to Asda and my dad was just like, hey, do you like this? And I said yes, and he was like, do you want it? And I said, yes, please. So I now have a big old giant blankie that is my snuggle blankie, and it's in the most gorgeous green colour and I love it. And yeah, I think this lighting actually picks up the green better than when I tried to take a photo of it in daylight. But yeah, it's so gorgeous, and it'll go with my bedroom because I'm going to be redecorating that in the new year. So I'm going to go pack and get ready to go home tomorrow. Speak soon. Hello, I am finished with my reading for this vlog. That's so cool. I completed, let's put my laptop screen down a little bit so we're a little less, and let's go into the sun a bit better. Here we go. There we go. I have completed The Winter Garden by Heidi Swain. I really, really ended up enjoying this. I thought it felt very organic and natural. I like the fact that the characters even addressed that they hadn't known each other for that long, because a lot of these books, they tend to fall in love really, really quickly, but no one sort of seems to go, wait, it's only been like a couple of days or a couple of weeks. But these guys even go, like Freya at one point says, we've only known each other a few days. And he's like, well, actually, it's about 6 weeks. And he goes, I know it's really super cheesy and it's not realistic. However, I don't think it's too soon to say I love you and things. And I'm like, that's actually, I love that they actually have acknowledged that it's very quick. And I also like that it wasn't, you know, a lot of these tend to feel very rushed at the end and it's like a year later and see them, you know, it wasn't like that. It just continued on and it ended really lovely. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I also loved all the gardening side of it. I've actually got on one of my pages, so here, I've got a little bit of washi tape to go back because they actually list a few books on gardening and there's one in particular that really intrigued me, so I've put a little note there to go back and make a list of these books and have a look at getting them for myself, because I did check and they are real books. I think it kind of links to my ecology days, and when I first moved in with my grandparents 6 years ago, I did a lot of gardening and I did do a lot of work in the back garden to get it like looking really good. And even though I struggle to garden as much as I used to, I do still love being out in the garden doing things. So I think that had an element. I liked all the Christmas crafts that they talked about. I liked all the different characters. I really enjoyed this book. There were a couple of bits that I wasn't so fond of. Like I said, I still felt it was a little bit of a rushed romance. And I didn't like... Oh, hello, cat. Didn't even see she was up there. Hi. Oh, that's a look and a half. But anyway, I didn't like a couple of the bits of conflict. It felt a little bit like, oh, here we go again. And there was one character who started off as an absolute, and then he just sort of went, I'm going to change, and did. And I felt like, oh, that's not realistic at all. Like, small steps, yeah, but the way he so drastically changed, I was a bit like, I don't know. But ended up being a really, really good read. And it means that at the end of this vlog, I had a very disappointing start and a very fantastic end. So I ended up overall with a 2.5 stars with Meet Me in London, a 3.5 stars with 12 Days of Christmas, and a 4.5 stars with The Winter Garden. So overall, I think it worked out about a 3.5 star, which wasn't too bad. Like I said, this was my first ever attempt at reading any sort of holiday romance, and as you all know, I'm not the biggest romance reader anyway, and I'm also not the biggest like on Christmas. I know, shock horror, but yeah, I like Christmas, don't get me wrong. It's just when the song It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year comes on, I'm always like, no it's not, that's Halloween. But, you know, I think it was a very successful first experiment and I'm very happy, and I now have some books that I need to get from here to now also look through. But yeah, next year I would like to repeat this again, maybe try and do a few more books and hopefully get some books a bit more ahead of time, because this was quite a... Even though I knew in November I was going to be doing it, it was still quite a last minute decision, so I didn't really plan it properly. So I did have a couple of weeks where I couldn't read anything because I didn't own any books and I couldn't get them from the library, and NetGalley didn't come through for me, which is really annoying. But anyway, let me know in the comments if you did any holiday romance reading yourself this year. What was your favourite book so I can add it onto my list for next year? And if you did read any of these books as well, either this year or last year, let me know what your thoughts were on them. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and I hope you have a fantastic new year, and I will see you in a few days with the first of my 2023 videos. Bye!